right, so if you're a property owner here in Arizona, chances are you've thought about what you do to protect it, right? But knowing your actual rights versus what you think your rights are, well, that can feel like walking through a legal minefield. So today, we're going to break it all down. We're talking about the huge differences between trespassing and burglary and what Arizona law says you can do, and maybe more importantly, what you should do to defend your castle. Because what happens when that what if scenario becomes very, very real?
Okay, let's dive right in. But first, and this is the most important thing I'll say, this is for your information only. It is absolutely not legal advice. For your specific situation, you have to talk to a licensed attorney. Seriously. Just picture it for a second. It's late at night, you hear a noise, and you see someone on your property who has no business being there. What's racing through your mind? And more importantly, what does the law actually let you do about it? This isn't just some hypothetical. It's a situation where the gap between what you think you know and what the law says can change everything.
Okay, so it all boils down to one single, incredibly important word: intent. Seriously, the entire legal framework we're about to walk through, it all hinges on this. It's about what's going on inside that intruder's head. Are they just lost? Or are they there to do something much, much worse? Because that distinction, it changes everything. To really get a handle on this, let's think of it like an escalating threat ladder. We're going to start at the very bottom rung with the most basic situation you might face: a simple trespasser. This is just someone who is on your property unlawfully. At this point, their only crime is just, well, being there. So, in Arizona, the law looks at where this is happening, and the crime gets more serious the closer they get to you. You've got third degree, which is the lowest level. Think of someone just wandering onto your unfenced front lawn. Then it bumps up to second degree if they go into, say, your tool shed or a fenced commercial yard. But the big one, the one that really matters, is first degree trespass. This is the most serious. It happens the second they're in your fenced-in backyard, or even worse, when they actually step foot inside your house. And believe me, the law sees your home as a very specially protected space. Okay, so we've got the legal definitions down, but how do you actually respond in the heat of the moment? This is exactly where that line between what's legally allowed and what's tactically smart can get really, really blurry. Let me paint you a picture to show you what I mean. Let's call her Pat Partygoer. She's throwing a party, and some guy she's never seen before who is acting really aggressive just walks in. He's in her living room, and he flat out refuses to leave. By the letter of the law, he is now a first-degree trespasser. So Pat does the right thing. The first thing you should always do, she tells him, get out. But instead of leaving, he gets hostile. He escalates. And just like that, the tension in that room just shot through the roof. Now here's the thing. Under Arizona law, specifically ARS Section 13-407, Pat is legally justified to threaten to use deadly force to get a trespasser out of her house. So she does. She goes and gets her pistol and points it at the guy. Legally, she's standing on solid ground. But this is where things get really dangerous. Her attempt to take control just backfired, big time. This guy isn't scared. He's challenged. He actually threatens to take her gun from her. I mean, that is the absolute nightmare scenario for any gun owner. So now what? What can Pat legally do? And more to the point, what should she do? And this is the really sobering part. Pat was legally allowed to threaten deadly force, sure, but she absolutely cannot use it against someone who is only a trespasser. By pulling out her gun, she took a shouting match and turned it into a potential fight for her life and for control of that weapon. She put herself and every single guest in her home in incredible danger. The much, much smarter play? Call 911, create distance, and have other non-deadly options ready to go. That story is a perfect setup for our next step up the ladder. So what happens when that person isn't just trespassing anymore? What's the legal tripwire that turns them into a burglar and completely changes your rights? Well, it all comes right back to that word intent. A trespasser is just there, unlawfully present. But a burglar is unlawfully present plus they have the intent to commit a crime, like theft or assault. The very moment you can form a reasonable belief that they have that felonious intent, the entire game changes. So, how are you supposed to know their intent? Well, their actions tell the story. A person who accidentally wanders into your yard is a trespasser.
But a person who smashes your kitchen window to get inside, with that one violent act, they have made their intent to commit a felony crystal clear. They just tripped the wire.
And when that wire gets tripped inside your own home, you have officially reached the top of the threat ladder. This is where we get into Arizona's castle doctrine, which is the most powerful legal protection a homeowner has.
The whole legal justification shifts on its axis. You're not just dealing with a simple trespass anymore under that first law. Nope. You are now operating under a much more powerful statute, Section 13-411, which justifies using force, including deadly force, to prevent a violent felony like burglary from happening.
This chart here really lays it out in black and white. For any kind of simple trespass, doesn't matter if it's outside or inside, you can't use deadly force just to kick them out. But the second it becomes a burglary of your home, the law gives you a clear yes. Deadly force is justified to stop that crime in its tracks. And this brings us to what is basically a powerful legal shield for you, the homeowner. Under Arizona's castle doctrine, if you use deadly force to stop a home burglary, the law automatically presumes you acted reasonably. Think about that. The burden of proof isn't on you to prove you're right. It's on the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you were wrong. That is a huge, huge legal advantage.
But, and this is really important, this powerful protection is strongest in your home. The law draws a very clear line between your house and your business. You're generally justified in using deadly force to stop a typical home invasion, what's called a second-degree burglary. But to justify that same level of force at your business, the threat usually has to be even higher, like a first-degree burglary where the bad guy's armed. The law really places the highest possible value on the sanctity of your home.
So we've climbed this whole ladder, from a simple trespass to a full-blown home invasion. What's the big takeaway for a responsible property owner in Arizona? It really just comes down to remembering that ladder, the threat level, and what you're legally allowed to do about it. Climb up rung by rung as an intruder moves from your yard, past your fences, and into the safety of your home. Knowing where you are on that ladder is absolutely critical. Ultimately, this is the question you have to answer for yourself. The law gives you a rule book for what you can do. But, as we saw with our party crasher story, that's only half the battle. What really matters is your judgment, your training, your tactics. That's what defines what you should do in that terrifying moment. It means you've got to get training, you've got to have a safety plan, and you need to understand your non-lethal options too. Because look, knowing the law is just step one. Being truly prepared to act wisely when the pressure is on, that is what's going to keep you and your family safe.